You ever wake up to a morning so quiet it feels like the world's holding its breath, waiting for something to break? That's how it was for me. Tom Harlan. That dusty September dawn out on my lonesome ranch, miles from nowhere in the New Mexico Badlands. I'm talking silence, so thick you could choke on it, no birds. No wind. Just the kind of hush that makes your gut twist. Like trouble's already knocking. I was nursing a cup of coffee gone cold, staring out my cracked window, when I saw them hundreds of Navajo warriors, lined up along my sagging fence, faces painted like war itself, still as stone. 200 pairs of eyes, all locked on my little cabin, like I'd done something to spit in their faces. I'm just an old rancher, been out here alone for a decade, keeping my head down since the fever took my Mary and our boy, Luke. So why the hell were they here, looking like they'd burn my world down? The night before, a storm had rolled in, mean as a rattlesnake, with thunder cracking the sky open and rain coming down in sheets. I was out battening down the barn when I saw a woman, stumbling through the mud, long black hair plastered to her face, her buckskin dress soaked through. She looked like she was fighting some ghost with every step, eyes wide with fear but burning with something fierce. "2. You need to get out of this," I yelled over the wind, my voice rough from disuse. She shook her head, muttering, "My people, they'll come looking." But the storm wasn't letting up, and she was shaking like a leaf. My ma always said, "Don't ask who's hurting, just help." So I did. I pulled the old hunting knife my pa left me, its handle worn smooth from his hands, and pressed it into hers. "Take this. Keep yourself safe," I said, tossing a wool blanket over her shoulders. Her fingers closed around the knife, trembling, like it was more than just steel, like it was a promise. She looked up, those dark eyes cutting right through me, and whispered, "I'll know your name. Tom Harlan." Then, like a shadow, she was gone, swallowed by the storm, leaving nothing but footprints washed half away by the rain. That morning, with those warriors staring me down, I knew she wasn't just some wanderer. My coffee cup hit the table, my hand already itching for the revolver at my hip. The door rattled 3 hard knocks, like fate itself was calling. I stepped out onto the porch, squinting into the dawn, and there he was, a tall man draped in coyote pelts, eagle feathers in his hair, eyes like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Tom Harlan," he said, voice low and sharp. "You know why I'm here." I swallowed, my throat dry as the desert. "Can't say I do." He stepped closer, his shadow falling over me. "I'm Black Hawk, chief of the Navajo in these parts. The woman you sheltered last night's my wife, Kelia." My heart dropped like a stone. Her eyes, that knife, her warning, it all clicked. Kelia, the chief's wife, and I'd handed her my pa's blade without a second thought. She was half dead in the storm, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I gave her shelter. That's all. Didn't know who she was." Black Hawk's eyes narrowed, like he was peeling me apart layer by layer. "That knife you gave her, it's yours, isn't it?" "Yeah," I admitted, so she could protect herself. A murmur rippled through the warriors. Low and dangerous. I didn't know then. But to the Navajo, a blade ain't just a tool, it's a vow. A bond heavier than words. Handing it to the chief's wife. That was like stepping into a sacred circle I had no business entering. Black Hawk leaned in, his voice soft but cutting. Among my people, a woman only takes a weapon from a man she trusts with her life. So tell me, rancher, where is she now? I froze. Kelia hadn't come back to her people. She'd vanished, and I was the last one to see her. The warriors' stares burned hotter, and I could feel the weight of their suspicion, like a noose tightening. She left before the storm broke, I said, but the words felt weak, like they'd crumble under scrutiny. Black Hawk raised a hand, silencing the murmurs. My wife is missing, Harlan, and you're coming with us to find her. I could have said no, locked my door, and let them sort their own mess. But those eyes, Kelia's, wild and desperate in the storm, kept flashing in my mind. And Black Hawk's voice, raw with something deeper than anger, hit a nerve I thought I'd buried years ago. So I nodded, grabbed my rifle, and climbed onto my horse, riding out with a war party that looked at me like I was half dead already. We rode north, through cactus fields and red rock, the wind carrying the thud of hooves like a heartbeat. The warriors watched me close, like I might bolt or betray them. But truth be told, I felt alive for the first time in years. My days had been nothing but feeding chickens and drowning in whiskey to forget the graves behind my cabin. Now, riding with these men, I felt my old soldier's blood stirring, like I was back in the war, before the world broke me. We stopped at a grove of twisted pines, where Black Hawk knelt, tracing faint tracks in the mud. Kelia's, he said, his voice tight. But she wasn't alone. Sure enough, bigger prince boots, heavy and deep, ran alongside hers. I remembered her glancing over her shoulder that night, like something was chasing her. She was scared, I said, half to myself. Not of me. Of whoever was after her. Black Hawk's eyes flicked to mine, a flicker of something like trust breaking through. You saw what I didn't, he said, and for the first time, I felt like more than a suspect. That night, we camped by a stream, the fire crackling under a starless sky. I sat alone, turning my old pipe over in my hands, listening to the warriors' low voices in a tongue I couldn't catch. I was caught between two worlds, me empty ranch, where I'd locked myself away, and this fierce, living bond of men who'd die for each other. And Kelia, somehow, was the thread pulling me through it. By noon the next day, we were deep in a canyon, cliffs towering like jagged teeth, the wind howling like a warning. I'd seen enough battlefields to know this was a bad spot, too quiet, too closed in. Then it came, an arrow, whistling past my ear, burying itself in a tree. War cries split the air, and shadows dropped from the cliff's ambushers, their spears gleaming like fangs. Traitors! One of Black Hawk's men roared as we scattered. arrows raining down. I dove behind a boulder, my rifle already in hand, the old soldier in me waking up fast. But something caught my eye, a Navajo warrior, high on a ledge, moving his hands in quick, sharp signals. He wasn't fighting. He was directing the attack. Black Hawk, I yelled, pointing. One of yours with them. The chief's head snapped up, his face twisting with rage. In one fluid motion, he drew his bow and fired, the arrow slamming into the traitor's chest, sending him tumbling off the cliff. The ambushers faltered, caught off guard, and Black Hawk's men surged forward, cutting through with brutal precision. I fired my rifle, dropping a spearman aiming for Black Hawk's back, the crack of the shot echoing through the chaos. When the dust settled, bodies littered the canyon, the air thick with blood and smoke. The traitor lay gasping, blood bubbling at his lips. I grabbed his shoulder. "Where's Kelia?" He grinned. "A sick, ragged thing. She's bait, old man, and you're all in the trap." His eyes went dull, and he was gone. I looked at Black Hawk, his face like stone, but his eyes betrayed him fear, rage, and something deeper. This wasn't just about Kelia anymore. Someone wanted his whole tribe broken. Black Hawk traced more tracks, leading west to a place called Bone Hollow, a cursed valley. They said, where a cavalry outfit vanished years ago, their bones still bleaching in the sand. The warriors muttered, uneasy, but Black Hawk's voice was iron. "They think fear will stop us. They're wrong." He turned to me, holding out a leather pouch. Inside was a silver pendant, shaped like a hawk. "Kelia's," he said. "She'd never leave it unless they forced her. Keep it, Harlan. Remember her." I took it, the metal cold against my palm, and nodded. I wasn't just a rancher anymore. I was in this, whether I liked it or not. Bone Hollow was like riding into a nightmare. The wind screamed, kicking up red dust that stung my eyes. And bones, human, horse, didn't matter, crunched under our hooves. My chest tightened, memories of Mary and Luke's graves hitting hard. But then a shout broke through. Black Hawk pointed to drag marks in the sand, leading to a clearing where Kelia stood, tied to a post, her face bruised, but her eyes still burning like coals. Around her were the traitor's Navajo outcasts, led by a wiry man with a scar splitting his face. He smirked, his voice dripping with venom. "Drop your weapons, Black Hawk. Kneel, and your wife lives. Defy us, and she's the first to die." The air went tight, every man frozen, waiting for blood. I nudged my horse forward, my voice rough but steady. "You're wrong, Scarface. Kelia ain't just a chief's wife's proof you can't break a people's spirit, no matter how low you sink." The words hung there, heavy, and for a split second, even the wind seemed to stop. Black Hawk glanced at me, his eyes flashing surprise, maybe even respect. Then all hell broke loose. The traders charged, blades flashing in the fading light. I spurred my horse, cutting through to Kelia, my paw's knife in hand. I slashed her ropes, and she fell against me, whispering, "I knew you'd come." We fought back to back, her wielding that same knife I'd given her, fierce as any warrior. Black Hawk's men tore through the enemy, and when the dust cleared, the traders were bound, their leader spitting curses as he bled into the sand. Black Hawk clasped my shoulder, his voice like a drum. "You saved my wife, Harlan. More than that, you saved our honor. From now on, you're no stranger. You're our brother." Kelia stepped forward, pressing the hawk pendant back into my hand. "Keep this," she said, her voice soft but strong. "For the night you chose kindness over fear." I looked at them. These people who'd been strangers a day ago, now closer than any family I'd known since Mary and Luke. The weight of my grief, that old ache I'd carried for years, felt lighter, like a door had cracked open to let some light in. That night, under a sky blazing with stars, the Navajos sang songs of victory, their drums echoing through Bone Hollow. I sat by the fire, the pendant heavy in my pocket, and thought about how one small act, giving a knife to a stranger in a storm, had pulled me out of the dark. Kindness, it turns out, doesn't just save someone else. Sometimes it saves you. But here's the thing, those traders, they weren't just after Kelia. They were working for a land baron in town, a man who'd been buying up ranches cheap, using fear to drive folks out. Was he the real puppet master, or just another player in a bigger game? And me, Tom Harlan, now tied to the Navajo, did I just trade one kind of trouble for another? What do you think? Was I right to step into that storm, to risk everything for a stranger? Or should I have stayed in my cabin, safe but alone? Drop a comment. Tell me what you'd have done. And if stories like this, tales of grit, betrayal, and redemption hit you right, hit that subscribe button. Let's keep these fireside chats going. You and me, digging into the messy truth of what it means to stand up when the world's against you.